This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Support for this podcast comes from Manscaped, who is the best in the business in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. We're coming close to Christmas, guys. Our jingle bells are starting to jangle. Any of you single guys at your office Christmas party and you see the woman of your dreams across the floor, but you're too down in confidence and you're not sure about your tinsel down below to go and ask her out? Well, that's why Manscaped has designed the electric trimmer. The Lawnmower 2.0 is proprietary skin-safe technology, so this trimmer won't nick or snag your baubles. Manscaping accents are finally a thing of the past. You wouldn't use the same trimmer on your face as you would maybe down there, because that's just nasty. And also, Manscaped has provided us with the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits, so why not put it down there too? Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BIGHEADS at manscaped.com. Always use the right tools for the job, and you know what? Your baubles will thank you. So once again, get 20% off and free shipping when you use the code BIGHEADS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the code BIGHEADS.
Greetings, Dog Pound Nation. Welcome to the Two Green Brands podcast, now part of the Big Head Media Podcast Network, with myself, John Cahill, and my good friend and fellow Irish Browns fan, Neil Dunworth. Neil, how are you today, this fine Christmas/New Year's, middle of nowhere type of day?
Yeah, this is the day, I think, statistically, that people actually have no idea what day it is. The 28th, everybody goes, I don't know whether it's a Saturday or a Tuesday or whether they've created a new day for today. But yeah, it's that bit in the middle between Christmas and New Year's. But I know exactly what day it is today because it's my fourth day working in a row. So I know exactly what day today is. I can't wait. Finish tonight at 9 p.m. And I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch Oklahoma LSU and then roll it into Ohio State Clemson. And I'm actually really looking forward to Ohio State Clemson. It's
me too.
It's going to be a banger, thankfully. And it would be nice to maybe have gotten the Oklahoma game in this round. But hey, you got to beat them all to win it. So
that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, my voice might sound a little bit under the weather. I'm not actually under the weather. I just haven't stopped drinking and eating for 5 days now. So today is the first detox day, and today is a cleansing day. There will be plenty of water and green tea today, and lots of vegetables. That's what
today is.
Says the man who's just had 2 Reese's peanut butter cups and a cup of tea for breakfast. Anyhow, we won't dwell on that, Neil. That's everyone else's fault for buying me Reese's selection box for Christmas. But anyhow, it's been, I've kind of tuned out myself the last few days, Neil, over after the Ravens debacle, we shall maybe call it.
Mm-hmm.
Left a little bit of a sour taste there. Not a great performance. I thought when we had gone up in the game that we were just about there. I was playing Lamar Jackson in my fantasy league, and I actually had my hands on the trophy in my fantasy league final because I thought Lamar was going to lay an egg. And then the end of the first half happened. Neil, what happened there? Can you break that down for me? What happened in those 2 minutes? My basic take on it is run the ball, get in for halftime. Don't give up 2 touchdowns. That would be my basic take on what happened.
Yeah, that'd exactly be it. If you can't, it's flabbergasting. There's nobody that's agreeing with Freddie Kitchens and his logic on this. There's nobody who agreed with it against the Seahawks. There's nobody who agreed with it. Anytime he's done it this year, the over-aggression, and it's been talked about ad nauseum, the over-aggression prior to halftime. Giving the ball back to the most prolific offense in the whole league, potentially the most prolific offense to ever play, considering that it looks like now they're going to that they're going to be, probably going to average 200 yards passing, 200 yards running on the year, which has never been done before. You have Lamar Jackson, who most likely will have finished the year of throwing the most touchdown passes. You were
Not bad for a
correct.
running back.
Not bad for running back. Yeah, you were corralling a pretty effective offense
I
up
thought we were
until.
doing quite well.
Yeah, well, we were getting the calls from the refs and everything. I didn't see this live. I watched it back afterwards. But that was the way we were doing. And then what happens then? It was like, okay, right, we seem to be doing well. Let's do something different. And it was trying to reinvent the wheel with 2 minutes and was it 2 minutes and 11 seconds or 2 minutes and 41 seconds or something left on the clock. And he tried to basically just lost his marbles. And we go into the half down after conceding 2 touchdowns with no timeouts for Baltimore. It was gross negligence, essentially. It was crazy. It was insane to see it. You text me about it and I went, can't be that bad. Jesus, can't be that bad. But to see the fact that, we gave the ball back to him and then we get down to 3-1. We get down to 3rd and 1. We need 1 yard. We throw the ball. Freddie says afterwards, but we were going to go for it in 4th down anyway. What the hell are you on about? Essentially, get it on 3rd down. Don't worry about it in 4th down. Makes no sense to me. And then come out again, then throw 3 times, only eat up 16 seconds, they come down the field. And by the way as well, when they were coming down the field, their tails were so high up that Mark Andrews just ran roughshod across the middle of the field. Demarius Randall, the players must have been looking at this and going, what in the name of Jesus is he doing here? He's going to, the defensive players are looking at going, he's really going to throw us out again twice more against this offense when we've broken our balls for the first 27 odd minutes. We've absolutely killed ourselves. We're looking to get in at halftime to try and keep this a decent game, keep us within here. And another stat is that Baltimore haven't won. When Baltimore have been down at halftime, they haven't won a game this year. I know we would have been only up 6-0 and they had the ball in the second half. But, geez, for me, I can't understand it. And you could see it. Our defense from that moment onwards was shocking for the rest of the game. And good players that we've been relying on were shocking for the rest of the game.
I think in a nutshell,
didn't play well in coverage. Demarius Randall, didn't play well in coverage. We just couldn't cover anything from that moment on, and it was a big turning point.
I think it was the turning point. I don't. There was no way back from that, and looked a little bit like the players had checked out. But we won't dwell on that too long. And for today, Neil, we'll have a little look forward to the Bengals. We'll also have a little look forward to maybe some players whom we may be seeing the last of in a brand's uniform. But first, we'll take a quick break to hear from our friends in Big Heads Media, and we will return shortly with a little preview of the Bengals game.
If you're like me, then every Saturday in the fall is the best day of the week for you. There's nothing like waking up, turning on the TV, and getting ready for a whole day of college football action. Whether you're watching from the stadium or from the couch that day, there's still nothing like the excitement that builds as you wait for your favorite team to take the field. The problem, though, is that for most, this excitement only comes on Saturdays. Here at the Flagship Football Show, we think every day should be College Football Saturday. That's why the Flagship team works all week to bring you the best recaps, previews, interviews, topics, and discussions on all things Ole Miss football. Tune in every Wednesday for our new episode on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, and follow us on Twitter at Flagship FB Show and on Facebook at the Flagship Football Show to keep up with all our coverage. And remember to stay with us every single Wednesday all year as we bring you everything you need to know about the Flagship University in Mississippi on the Flagship Football Show.
So, Neil, Bengals this weekend. Both yourself and myself were in London for the European meetup for the first Bengals fixture. A very underwhelming performance, really. Not that we struggled to beat the Bengals, but we didn't exactly light them on fire. My big concern for this game, and a huge thing I think we need to be aware of, is Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has more yards than Nick Chubb in the second half of the season running. he's on. He's really picked up second half of the season. He literally couldn't stop him in the first game, and he's running quite well. If we don't have Miles Garrett, obviously, and we're probably not going to have Vernon. I'm not sure on his status at the moment, whether he's starting or not. So this means we're back to Chad Johnson, not Joey Porter, sorry,
Porter Gustin and Chad Thomas.
Porter Gus and Chad Thomas, and what's the other guy? The other defensive end.
Well, to be honest with you, Chad Johnson and Ochocinco could probably do a better job at defensive end.
Might be able to contain Joe Mixon. But I think we're particularly soft on the rush there. Andy Dalton, two things. Andy Dalton's going to have all day unless something changes and we start getting significant pressure from somewhere else sticking something up.
I think we could, because their offensive line is historically bad. So
it is that's true. But not bad enough for Joe Mixon to be able to run all over us. Like, Joe Mixon is going to run all over us.
I'm not as convinced on that as you. I'm not as convinced on that as... No, I know we haven't been able to stop the run, but the Cincinnati Bengals, I think I read somewhere, are only averaging 86 rushing yards per game this season. Now, I know they were pretty poor, and I know you said in the second half of the season that he's out rushing Chubb, but yeah, their offensive line. It looks like Freddie was saying yesterday that we might have Olivier Vernon back for this game. He's expecting him to go for this game. Like, for me, I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't want to see the Browns lose, but I couldn't be less enthused for a game at the end of the season. Yeah, to go 4-2 in the division. This is actually a funny one, because everybody says, and you hear it in Cleveland Browns Daily, and I do agree with it to a point, but I never fully get on board with it, is that, you have to win your division. You have to be strong within your division because you play those 2 times a year. Well, we're strong in our division and we're going to have a losing record, and our division play the same teams that we will play outside of division. And you have the Steelers, who are going to have a winning season, and you have the Ravens, who are going to have a historically good season, and then you've got us, and we've performed well within our division. Well, provided we beat the Bengals, we will have performed really well within our division, but we'll only have exactly the same record as within our division as the Ravens and the Steelers. So for me, being strong in the AFC North, all it is a tiebreaker. That's really all it is, and we don't need a tiebreaker at the moment. Now, you see certain people on Twitter going, "Oh, lose this, we get in the top 10, provided other results go." But watch the Browns it up by winning and then getting the 17th pick. Realistically, for me, that doesn't really matter either. I think the biggest point here is that people are talking about, does this game have any bearing on whether we bring back Freddie Kitchens? And we'll talk about that again afterwards. But the game itself, how we can win it and where we do look to win it. You were talking about Mixon is going to run all over us, and we did have a bit of we did let them kind of bend but don't break kind of attitude against them the last time. And it'll be interesting to see what way it goes this year. But Joe Mixon hasn't been utilized well by this team in the main this year. They've got Tyler Boyd, and they've got an injured AJ Green. I guess it's funny that the Bengals, for a 1-14 team, have tons more talent than we had when we went 1-15 and 0-16. I mean, like, immeasurably better. Carlos Dunlap, Geno Atkins on defense, Darquis Dennard on defense, Nick Vigil, Jesse Bates, all on defense. They're all really good players. Any of those players would actually probably get in our team. They'll be in a rotation anyway, for sure, with Nick Vigil and Darquis Dennard. And then on offense, they've got Joe Mixon. They've got a competent quarterback in Andy Dalton. Not good, but competent in Andy Dalton. They've got 2...
Good enough to win with.
Oh, absolutely. They've got 2 unbelievably good wide receivers in Tyler Boyd and AJ Green, who granted is injured, and they've got Tyler Eifert, who is a very competent tight end, along with other pieces that they have there. So, like, the biggest part, and it's funny actually, Cordy Glenn is their left tackle at the moment, and I'd take Cordy Glenn on this team. So their team going 1-15 at the end of this year, if it does transpire, they go 1-15, is an actual travesty because of the talent that they have on their team in comparison to some of the shite we were rolling out in our own 16 and 1-15 years. So that's something to bear in mind as well. But I've gotten about 15 different directions with that.
You have. I'll bring it back to a few points, right? And just relating to the Bengals, we'll stay on the Bengals for a moment. And Andy Dalton, I spoke about this on the podcast before. Always had a bit of a soft spot for Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton is a decent player. I think he could win with Andy Dalton. I think the Chicago Bears, had they had Andy Dalton this year, would be in a much better position than they are now. I think possibly the Carolina Panthers. I think like there's a lot of teams out there that if Andy Dalton goes on to their team, make them a better team straight away. So I think this is possibly Dalton's last game. Also, there's a little fact that I was looking at there this morning. January 2018, or not January, the first, I think, is it 10 games now? 10 AFC North games since the Bengals have won. Like a couple of years since they've won an in-division game. Dalton's possibly last game for the Bengals. Couple of little things there that arrows pointing to, like, these guys are going to want to win this game. They are now on the clock, so they have nothing to lose. They have nothing to play, not nothing to play for, but they have nothing to lose by or gain by losing games or anything like that. So I think they have enough motivation. I think they have required motivation there. At the moment, the Browns team, I think, are highly unmotivated. If the players have checked out on Freddie, this could be a bad sign. This is a very losable game, Neil. Like, and it's a terrible thing to say against a 1-15 that this is a losable game. The Bengals team itself, just looking down through the team, very surprised actually. The Bengals, a lot of the players I looked at last year, when I'm looking at the draft, I tend to get interested in like 4th, 5th, 6th round players that can be taken late, where you get some value. And a couple of guys have popped up on my radar that a lot of the guys I looked at in later rounds last year in the draft seemed to have popped up on the Bengals. Auden Tate was a guy I was always quite interested in the draft, size-wise, as a wide receiver, and he seems so he's had an okay season. He's done a little bit. He's been out a bit and he's flashed in a few games. Big red zone threat, big guy. Drew Sample as tight end. I think he missed a lot of games this year, but he's a good all-round tight end. He's sort of fitting in there with Tyler Eifert and Stanley Morgan, another receiver that someone I looked at later on in the draft. We've also a couple of guys there that were taken last year, like the likes of Sam Hubbard and Jermaine Pratt. There were guys that we were looking at for in our sort of take on the draft for guys we'd like in the Browns. I think Sam Hubbard from Ohio, I think was he had a lot of injury concerns and stuff like that. And Jermaine Pratt was one of the linebackers we were looking at later on when we were looking to take someone later on in the later rounds. So like just getting back to what you were saying, there are players on this team. There are players. Renell Rain, another guy we looked at in the draft last year. So I'm not confident, and this is a terrible thing to say. I think it's a terrible reflection on the team at this point to not be confident going into the last game of the season against a 1-15 team with nothing to play for. I don't know. Talk me out of it, Neil.
I'm confident in winning this game at the weekend. I think that we will win it. Like, this team has only won one game. And when you go down through the results, everyone goes, yeah, but they've been competitive. They haven't really been competitive. Like, just going on Joe Mixon there, he's averaging 3.9 yards per for the year rushing. You know, he's only had over one, two.
He had 146 against us in the last game.
Yeah, and he's had that was against us in the last game. Fair enough. Yeah, but he's like, there was one game where he averaged 2 yards rushing from 10 attempts against Jacksonville. There was another game where he averaged he actually only had 2 yards rushing from 10 attempts against Jacksonville. There was another game where he had 10 yards rushing and 8 attempts against Baltimore. You know, he's had, his stats are padded. You mentioned that he's got rushing yards or whatever in the last few games, but they look like they've been padded. New England beat them pretty convincingly. He had 136 yards. He only had 50 yards against Miami last week at 2.4 average at 21 attempts. So, like, you know, the fact that he had 146 against us in the last game would lead me to believe that maybe we will find some way of shutting him down a bit. Well, sorry, not shutting him down, but corralling him a bit more than 146 yards, because that's definitely, it's just the outlier. That is the outlier, and he averaged 6.3 yards that day. But yeah, Like I think that we win this game. I'm actually kind of more concerned about I'm just more concerned about our defensive backs in the passing game, and because like you just see the middle of the field was just so open against the Ravens, and it was pretty open against Arizona. I know Arizona ran the ball on us, but that was more outside, running to the outside. Joe Mixon is a small bit. I know he can do much in the receiving game as well, but Joe Mixon is more of a kind of a mixed runner, as opposed to Arizona running backs were just running to the outside the whole time. And they were running on, was McCray in that game instead of, I think McCray might have been in there, or sorry, not McCray. Sorry, not McCray. The two, well, Vernon. Sorry, I should have said Vernon wasn't in that game. Not McCray is completely wrong side of the ball. But Vernon wasn't in that game either against Arizona. So if Vernon plays, I think it brings a bit more semblance to this offensive or this defensive line. And Brian Cox Jr. has, while I won't say flashed, he's put in some decent effort, an awful lot of effort, as has Burris, in the last few games. So I just think that you need one better pass rusher on this team, and it could bring things back into some sort of semblance, especially against the run game and in the pass game as well. But look, the last game of the season, it's a meaningless game. The only one it really means anything to is really Freddie. And I suppose it means something to Nick Chubb staying leading rusher. Means something to OBJ, who's down with illness at the moment. There's a lot of people that are out with
50 yards short of a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah. So there are a couple of pieces like that I suppose it does mean to people individually, but like it's
And
you can make an argument that they will lose. I just don't think that they will. I think they'll win this game.
For now, say we'll take a little helicopter view of the whole game and the game as it fits into the season that we've had. Take a few players here, for example, maybe Demarius Randall, Joe Schobert, David Njoku, amongst others. Potentially last game in brown and orange.
I think this Njoku stuff is conflated and it's blown up. It's not his last game. We have him on a relatively cheap contract next year. You just take him on that. He's not going anywhere. Joe
Do you think it? So just on Njoku, do you think that if Freddie, if this management team is rolled back or run back for next year, do you think it would, well, like even look at from a business point of view, a tradable asset, someone you're not going to play? They obviously see something with Njoku. They obviously see it's pass, like it must be the blocking, it must be the pass protection, whatever it is. They obviously see something with him that they're not happy with, and they don't view him as their best option to win games. If they're rolling back this management team, I think there'd be a fair chance that as a tradable asset he goes.
Well, put it to you this way. There was no problem with Njoku at the start of the year. I know Freddie came out or somebody came out and said it was a Dorsey or someone came out and said, yeah, he's blocking. We want to get his blocking better. I think that was just completely blown out of proportion. Man missed 10 games with a broken wrist. I just think that a lot of the times people say, oh, he was a healthy scratch. Like, yeah, bring him out there, get him to run routes if you want, but the team was struggling for offensive line help. If his blocking was an issue before he broke his wrist, his wrist might still be weak. You just don't know what power he has there. But like we kind of, we couldn't get the ball to our all worldly wide receivers. So who thinks that we're going to get the ball to a tight end, in the middle of games? I think the fact that he was out for so long this year is more to do with it than the fact that somebody just doesn't like him or is not my guy kind of thing. I think people just jump to this too very, very easily. Not like it's, I don't know. Njoku's back next year. Look, put it this way. There are going to be tight ends out there there might be some trade rumors about him, but like what's going to happen here is all the same people that are saying Njoku is gone are going to be the same people that are going to be given out to say, well, why did we trade him to the Patriots? It's going to be teams like the Patriots that are going to be looking for him. So if we want to win our division, we don't trade within our division, but it's going to be people like them. Do you think the Patriots are going to give us a second round pick for Njoku? Like, what are we going to get for him? Tradable assets. I just don't see
I'd
him
say
as a
third
tradable asset.
round.
Yeah.
I would say a third round pick maximum.
And I bet you any money that the Patriots would prefer to have OJ Howard, even though he's got a lack of production, a less production than Njoku anyway. So, it's like there's a lot of people who are sitting there thinking about this stuff an awful lot, and it becomes a bigger issue, I think, for them. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I probably will have egg on my face at some stage. I usually do, but for me,
I'll throw the egg at you, Neil, if he gets traded. All right,
that's fine. But like, if I'm GM, who, like, I don't know, like, just because he's not playing, everybody goes, player isn't playing, player must have a problem, or they must have fallen out with the coaching staff, and that might not be the case when somebody comes back from 10 weeks of being injured. I can see it with Rashard Higgins having a problem. Yeah, look, I think that's irrefutable at the moment. He returned a punt, I think, in the last game. Rashard Higgins did. He's not going to be here. That's fine.
Like, and I hate dragging it down to this level, but like, you keep an eye on social media over the season and look at the three squeakiest wheels that we have on the squad: Njoku, Rashard Higgins, Demarius Randall.
Demarius Randall has always been a loose cannon on social media. Even coming back to when he first signed with us, he put up a controversial post saying that that he'd buy Cavs jerseys for everybody who retweeted.
Oh yeah.
That thing. Yeah. But like in Njoku's, everyone goes, "Oh, cryptic tweets. Oh, what can this mean?" It might mean fuck all. It might be something to do with his family. It might be something to do with whatever.
There is that, but like my thing always with that stuff is, why are you doing that? Like, what's the?
But why this? Yeah, like it's so. Right, when someone's coming out in the draft, everybody talks about intangibles, and they all talk. And some people say intangibles are something that we should look at, and some people say that no, I just want to look at production only. So they want to see the actual facts of something and not read into something that may be there or may not be there when somebody's coming out.
How you're polite.
The second that they get drafted, then they read into absolutely everything and make up their own narratives. So, like, it's for me. Look, until he actually physically comes out and says, "Hey, listen, Freddie Kitchens is a bumbling idiot, and there isn't a fucking hope I'm putting on a pair of cleats while he's in the room," I've got no reason to believe it. And it's not me burying my head in the sand or just going la 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 la. But I think that a lot of people spend a lot of time reading into things that aren't there. And then what it is because of social media, then it just becomes everybody now thinks that, oh, Njoku wants out. We haven't even seen a report. We haven't even seen one of these magical reports from Mary Kay that Njoku wants out. We've seen tons of them from OBJ. So there isn't even smoke in this fire yet. So
yeah, no, I would say with the likes of Njoku, I think it's pretty obvious that there's something there with him and the management. Like there's definitely there's something there. Like, as with Higgins, as obviously with Higgins, Demarius Randall, I don't know. Demarius Randall is our starting safety. He's a starter on that team, but I think his problem has been he's not getting paid. He's not going to get. He's not even going to get near the money he's looking for, even if he leaves the Browns.
Well, you see, this is the thing. So if you're saying that, yeah, like Randall has pretty much made it clear all year that he doesn't want to be here, and like they benched him for the Pittsburgh game.
And Higgins has been benched more or less and been sidelined for refusing to come on. Was it the Seattle game? He refused to come on. Yeah. So like it seems to be
how anybody can defend him for refusing to come on. How anybody can defend him for refusing. Yeah. Now, I want him to stay around, and I think he should be used in the game a small bit more because of obviously the chemistry he has. But for anyone who sits there and goes, I wouldn't have came on if they'd asked me either the way they treated me. This was before this whole ill treatment as went on. This was pretty early in the season.
And this is where it stemmed from. This is
100%. Yeah, and that's undefendable in my book. Like everybody goes around looking for men of high character. When men of high character just come on and do their job, like, and I'm not trying to castigate Rashard Higgins. I think he's a really good guy or whatever. He just made a stupid mistake by refusing to come on. If you refuse to come on,
you have a problem.
That's going to create a bigger problem because what has happened is you've gone from being the guy in the right to being the guy who can never be right in the training. In the training staff's minds there.
Yeah.
You don't refuse. You don't go on strike. Essentially, you just don't do it.
I think with Njoku for me is the fact that there's I hate him to be the unfulfilled potential player. Do you know what I mean? I'd hate for that to, for a guy with so much ability, and I would hate for him to go somewhere, Arizona, or go somewhere that he's going to be used as a weapon. Like just use him as a weapon. If you need someone pass blocking, go get a pass blocking tight end, because we don't appear to have one. Or if you're going to be putting, Demetrius Harris out in an island versus Chandler Jones, maybe want to rethink that kind of stuff, and maybe just not do that. Maybe not go down that road. But like in Njoku, as a weapon, as an offensive weapon, is he was top 10 in tight ends in receiving yards last year, wasn't he?
It's irrefutable as well that he's a good player. I just think he was injured for 10 games this year, and what I think what the Browns came in and having maybe installed, or having as a notion for their tight ends, completely changed in those 10 games that he was out. And then when he came back, they were kind of going, look, he should be active over Carlson and a couple of those guys, even though they're playing well, should be active over. I know Farrell Brown's been
very happy with Carlson as a free agent addition.
Oh, absolutely.
He seems like a good depth guy there.
But
Neil, we're going to have whole podcasts about depth charts coming up in the next few months. That we're going to have many's of conversation about the depth in each room in all these empty weeks of podcasts we have coming up for everyone, with draft coverage and stuff like that. It's sorry, go ahead.
Just one thing before we finish, I suppose, in the Njoku thing is we don't have long to wait to find out whether he is going to stay around with this coaching staff, because
I think we'll know on Monday.
I think we'll know on Monday, exactly. I think we'll know on Monday what the situation is going to be. And if the Browns did her on Monday and they don't sack Freddie Kitchens, I will probably have my pitchfork out for pretty much everybody in the organization. No, like if they keep us in the lurch and they don't make an announcement on Monday, I'll certainly have my pitchfork, because that's dysfunction. You should have your mind made up now. You shouldn't be going into meeting now to try and figure out what it is. You'd like to think
again. We're going to have lots of airtime. We're going to have lots of airtime to discuss this one, Neil. And something interesting I saw the other day, just in regards to front office staff, I see one of our favourite front office staff that left the Browns last year to go to Philadelphia being touted as a GM candidate, Mr. Andrew Berry.
Yeah.
So like we're losing good guys.
Well, we are, but we also have some like Elliot Wolf is in the organization now, and look, Andrew Berry is he might be, but we'll see where he goes.
I don't see Elliot Wolf being touted as a GM candidate at the moment, and that is a lot to do with maybe how things have gone this last year and a half.
Well, you take it a year back, and he would have been touted an awful lot. Yeah. And his father and all those would have you don't become a bad GM just because you're sitting under somebody else. People, you become a bad GM when you make bad mistakes as a GM. But Elliot Wolf, I can guarantee you, Elliot Wolf would be in a lot of people's interview lists if and when the GM positions do come out. And it's probably the same with Alonzo Highsmith. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
I've read an article this week about Alonzo Highsmith going back to the U to be a program director in the U, because I think their program has kind of been struggling a little bit. Yeah, and he's been touted as a sort of a program director or something to go back but down to Miami.
But saying that as well, that John Dorsey, like John Dorsey was a talent evaluator, and he was a very good college talent evaluator that got him the GM position. Now, some people like John Dorsey, some people don't like John Dorsey. So like when you talk about Andrew Berry, and look, I love Andrew Berry, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Andrew Berry is a very good talent evaluator, so he's a very good college talent evaluator, and he's a very good NFL talent evaluator, but the same as John Dorsey. And now when people get elevated to that situation as GM, they've got an awful lot of hats to wear as well. And now you know that the goodwill for John Dorsey that was only there less than 4 months ago is now being eroded away to the point that people are just expecting him to go. And I think that there's a bit of knee jerk in that as well. We can see that there's been issues with this, you know, with the way maybe the roster is being constructed, but there's been a lot of things like the injury bug that Browns had. There's a lot of people who say, 30 padded practices. I'm not quite sure I get the meaning for that. Is like you go to any rugby practice I'm sorry for bringing this up the whole time, but you go to any rugby practice and the fact that they're able to tackle correctly allows them not to injure the person, but getting the same result. So, and if you go to, and you know, it's been said a couple of times that just because they have pads on doesn't mean they're smashing into each other at a million miles an hour. You know, injuries are going to happen. You know, somebody who's at Kirksey Torrey's pec, and Njoku just fell awkwardly on a bad ball from Baker, fell awkwardly on his wrist, broke his wrist. Breaking things for me is like there's no like over practice doesn't mean you're more likely to break your leg. Breaking your leg is force against an object. It's just like that's a physics thing. Hamstrings maybe there might be something in it in the hamstrings, but like for Greedy and for Denzel, but there's like for the freak injuries and stuff like that we've had.
What's the biggest knock on John Dorsey at the moment? Like say like that, like you alluded to, like I think he's lost a lot of goodwill in the last few months. What in your opinion, where do you think that has come from?
The biggest thing for John Dorsey is the fact that he traded, like the biggest ones are what he said about Duke Johnson, trading away Avery and not having signed Joe Schobert. They're the biggest things. They're the biggest knocks on him at the moment. And then after that, then people will say, well, he never signed a left tackle. He never signed a right tackle and stuff like this. I think that, you know, wood from the trees, he probably thought that we could bring back what we had and perform to the level we did in the end of last year, even though PFF thought that the tackles were poor. That's fine. I thought you could get some semblance of play from them. And then they didn't really. I think there was like one or two little things there. I was actually quite happy with the fact that they had a lot of bodies in there for the right tackle position or the right guard position. It just didn't work out. So the biggest problem that he's had really have been trading away people that other people were thought were much better than being traded away that we should have kept. Maybe signing Austin Corbett has been a massive piece because that's where our right tackle issue came, our right guard issue came from.
For me, Neil, I have to say, and like something that doesn't inspire me with confidence. All of those things, yeah, are all issues. The biggest thing for me, my biggest concern going forward with John Dorsey, and I personally need to see an improvement, is the draft. I'm not blown out of the water by our last two drafts. Like, you know, like Baker and Denzel. You know, I could have picked those players. Do you know what I mean? Like it's.
Were you blown away by our drafts in the previous 6 years?
Oh God, no! The opposite of
previous
blown
10
away,
years.
Like,
when was the last time you were blown away by a Cleveland Browns draft? And this is not admonishing what is the word? You know, taking away blame from Dorsey or anything like that. But look, you know, in none of those drafts have we gotten a quarterback, and people have said that there was surefire quarterbacks and that we could have taken, and we didn't take them. We didn't take Deshaun Watson. We didn't take Carson Wentz. We didn't take, and that's just, I'm not having a crack off Sashi here just before fucking Sashi Dorsey bullshit. They were both good GMs. They're both good GMs in certain areas. They both have failings in other areas. Like Ray Farmer was a complete abomination altogether. Seems like he's a nice guy. Couldn't pick his nose. And then, you know, you go back through it. You just go back through it. I think we've had pretty good drafts. Like the one I can't get my head around is why they've traded away Gennard Avery. Is that from all of the picks that he's had, the Gennard Avery one for me. Why do you trade away a player that's showing promise? The Austin Corbett pick was poor. Chad Thomas is still here. We like whether you like him or not, he's here, and but he's here. Like,
shouldn't be.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. But who the fuck do you play if he's not here? We were talking about Joey Porter and Chad Ochocinco. You know, that's what you call them. You know, so like, you know, if you don't have him, you can't play him. You know, and it's not like, yes, he shouldn't be here, but we need somebody here at the moment. If we'd gotten rid of him and signed a defensive end and spent more money, well, then do you know what? John Dorsey's going to be killed for cap management. because of the fact that he already has to pay Myles Garrett, and he's paying Olivier Vernon 13 million a year. So and he's paying Sheldon Richardson 13 million a year. So if it wasn't going to be one thing, it's going to be another thing. And I think that the Austin Corbett one is the big one. That's the big pick that he's really whiffed on, hugely whiffed on. And then when he had got a guy who was good in Gennard Avery, he didn't keep him. He should have just kept him. It's that simple, And the second he traded him away, Olivier Vernon gets injured, and then Myles Garrett goes away and hits a fellow with a helmet. So it's like he couldn't have done it at a worse time. So for me, that is the big one. The two big ones are the trading of Avery, and I'm like the Rashard Higgins thing. I think that's a Freddie thing. The Duke Johnson thing, he absolutely got himself out of a hole with the return he got for it. The tackles, looking at it, they've been a massive issue for us this year. And the Austin Corbett one that's the cornerstone. That for me is the big cornerstone for this. It was a massive whiff, and you're going to have those. But for us to say we're underwhelmed with the drafting when we've gotten number one running back in the NFL, we've gotten a bona fide number one corner, I think, in Denzel Ward when he's fit and healthy, and we've gotten Baker Mayfield. Look, it's a hell of a lot better than most teams have done in the last couple of years. So yes, you're going to have your unicorns.
But we only got those, Neil, because Sashi Brown set up all the picks.
But that's fine. And but Sashi, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Sashi Brown was great at getting picks, but going right back to my tangent earlier on. But we had the shittest team ever. Went 0-16 and 1-15. And when you look at the talent of a team that's gone 1-14 here in Cincinnati, and the talent I named that, we didn't have that with Sashi Brown. So we had no other MO. We had no other reason for having the team we did other than to gather the picks. And he was brilliant at it, and I'd love to have him back. And I would hope to God that we have somebody that can do that.
Joe Thomas's argument on Twitter the other day that the win against the Chargers on Christmas Eve, was it, or whatever, 2 years ago, was a greater achievement than the Steelers going to whatever record they get to this year. Right, that was his argument, because the team was set up not to win. Like that team was designed not to win.
Yeah, and when you've got players that were on that team coming out and telling you, listen, I played on it. This is coming from the horse's mouth. We weren't set up to win.
Weren't supposed to win a game. Like, and it was as simple as that. Like, But before we go, Neil, one more guy we'll have a quick chat about. That maybe his last game, Joe Schobert. This is a difficult. You think to sign him? Yeah. I think it'd be nuts not to sign him. But a way to go to make a guy not feel wanted. Maybe approach him and have a chat about
it. Right. I'm sick of fucking people's feelings. I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. This is a business. My employer doesn't come to me before my annual performance review and ask me, is everything okay? And do you want extra few cash now? No, you don't want extra money now? No, that's fine. Listen, this will get done if it's going to get done. We may have to pay over the odds for him, but the second he stepped on the field this year, as opposed to last year, getting it done last year, we were always going to have to pay him a lot more money. So my issue with this here isn't that, well, why haven't you signed him during the year in 2019? My issue is, why didn't you sign him in the off season of 2018 coming into 2019? That's where my issue is here. Because, to be honest with you, I don't really. We got a deal done with Tretter during the year. I don't see why we haven't gotten it. Why we haven't approached him. Yeah, but maybe there has been. We mightn't have offered him a contract yet. But
no, it hasn't been approached. Hasn't had a conversation about it. That's the last thing he said.
That's the last thing he said. With one side of the story there, and this is just, once again, just playing devil's advocate. I still think they sign him. I don't think they've any other choice but to sign him. But I think that what they'll do is they're letting the CJ Mosley contracts, they're letting all those contracts go. Your man who signed with Tampa Bay, they're letting all those kind of contracts kind of sit out there at the moment, so they can come back to him and say, listen, how does 12 a year for 3 years suit you? Or 12 year for 4 years, 48 million contract, we take it and see what way it goes. I don't like, regardless, like the second CJ Mosley signed his contract, we were never getting him for anything under 10 million, anything under 12 million. Sorry, we just weren't like. It's just the way the league works. So it was getting in there and getting it done last year was the job. Getting it done like once CJ Mosley signed the contract, whether we signed him in week 1, week 2, week 10, week 11, we were still paying over the odds anyway. So I think it was a case of, listen, the position is overinflated. We'll sit down with him after the year. We'll sign him. We have until March, and we can still franchise tag him or transition tag him or whatever.
You always run that risk when you run that extra year that he has a year like he's had, and his value has done nothing, only go up really.
But it was regardless. He was like he's not going to get like 17, 18 million a year.
No,
there's nobody in the league going to pay him.
Well,
that.
I don't think anyone's going to pay him that.
No. So but what I say is that last year, once the middle linebackers signed the contracts last year, we were always going to have to spend that money regardless. So the trick here was getting in before the signings, before free agency last year to sign him up. It didn't happen, and I think they looked at it and they went, well, look, somebody else has gone nuts and paid a middle linebacker, however much they paid him. Listen, look, we're going to have to pay him something similar to that at some stage. So there's no point in getting in there early. But I think that there should be some sort of conversation about it still. Not admonishing any blame from the front office there. He is one of the bright spots in that defense at the moment. And he's Mr. Consistent. He's a nice guy. So I think he's someone that you want around the team. I'm all for signing him. I still think they do sign him.
Yeah.
I think they sign him. I think he signs, and he probably gets somewhere between 12 and 13.5 million a year over for 4 years. And people would be happy until he has a bad season and a half in a row. Yeah. And then
he's overpaid like Kurt.
And then he's overpaid, and John Dorsey put us in cap hell, and nobody will stand by their words. Just like us, we won't stand by what we've said. And we will completely change our tune. We'll backtrack. We'll delete this podcast from off any records, and they will say we always said he should never have been signed. Just the way social media goes.
Yeah, exactly. But look, Neil, this is our last regular season preview, and the podcast is going to change a little bit of format over the coming weeks. We're still going to be getting out some content. We're going to switch over into some draft talk. We're going to be doing a bit more on some general Cleveland stuff. We'll have a bit of a mixed bag for you over the coming months, and it'll all be interesting. I said on early next week, we'll be back on with a review and a chat about Black Monday, and to see who has pulled the trigger. It's one of my, not that it's one of my favorite days that everyone gets fired on, but I always like that merry-go-round of GMs and managers, just to see who's going to land where. So we'll have a little game of on our next podcast of who we want to see where, and who'd be best suited where. And we'll probably be all crying in our coffee about the fact that Freddie is going to be walked back next year, and maybe Todd Monken gets the bullet, and there's only a minor change here or there, or everyone goes, and then we have the whole merry-go-round thing to look forward to for a few weeks before we get to Senior Bowls and bowl games. We'll have a little chat about the bowl games actually next hour on as well, because we have a Ohio State interest and a lot of draft prospects.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, and with the regularity of podcasts, I'm literally sitting here and I'm looking at it. It goes Saturday morning. I went, oh crap, I'm after forgetting to bring out a betting podcast. Basically, I've just had my face stuck in watching tape and stuff like that. And look, hey, this is all new to me. A lot of this is new to me, but I'm just going to give my views on it as I see it and who I think is good, and keep an eye out for that. I'll be putting something together on Twitter and something over the course of the next few weeks. So we have something regular coming out on that as well.
Awesome. So lots to look forward to. Anyhow, folks, that'll do us for today. Thanks for listening to the show. Please pass on the pod to your friends by retweeting. You can rate and review. That'd really help us out. Follow us on Twitter, myself at John Cahill _IRL, and Neil at 2 Green Browns. And until next time, go Browns.